start with, is Tony here?
Yes, he is.
I know I signed outside.
He's looking for his cell phone.
Oh, okay. So we do have with us today our district attorney, Tony Pierce, Supervisor Tinkle's here, Supervisor Banks, Supervisor Feinberg, Supervisor Guy, Supervisor Flaherty, and our district manager, Chris Shoemaker, is also in attendance. So with that, do we have people that wish to speak?
Yes, Mr. Joe McCulca.
Joseph McCulca, Stony Brook resident, 14-year resident of Gateway. And not everybody's going to be happy about this one, but I felt obligated to come out and talk about the RV parking plan. In the 14 years that I've been here, I've seen three things, two that were attempted, and this is the third, and I don't think it's a good idea. I really would like to suggest, rather than us be in the parking lot business, the area that we have, that we're thinking about doing this project, explore with existing people in that business to lease that property to them at a very reasonable price. Let the market set the price for the cost of parking, let them manage it. Make sure, our attorney I'm sure is more than capable to come up with a contract, that environmental is considered in that contract, that the management and the responsibility is such that if they don't do a good job, we can terminate it. And I'm sure they're gonna want it to be a sort of a long-term contract. I watched the tennis complex come and go, and I had to come and talk about that, and I also was here for the how to heat the pool here in Gateway. And natural gas, I think you'd all would agree, was the way to go, and I'm the one that spoke about that. I think this is a bad idea. One of the considerations that hasn't been fully weighed is the burden and effort for the staff to maintain this, is the cost of increased insurance, as well as the maintenance of this facility. We can talk about the cost of financing and the rental covering that, but I don't think you really have anticipated all the expenses. I think we need to rent the property out, if that's what we need. We can give special consideration to Gateway residents, but that's part of the contract. That's all I have to say. I'm done with that. Anyone?
Joe, are you of the assumption that the firm that you would lease it to would perform the capital improvements?
That would have to be something that would be negotiated and put into the contract. That's correct. Now, I will confess, I don't know what the latest proposal is for capital improvements and how extensive. I'm also, still, the number I hear was 600,000. I don't know if that number is still the accurate number or not. That is open negotiation. I recognize the need, but I don't think that the rest of Gateway should be subsidizing that need for the benefit of a small number.
The reason I bring that up is that I've dealt with some of these people in the past, not down here, but up north. And what we have designed and planned, I'm not gonna call it a Cadillac, it's nice, but there's no way in the world they will come in and make it like that. It will be something significantly less, because their whole deal is to make money and not to be paying it on debt retirement and capital improvements.
I tend to agree with you. That's one of the reasons I made the suggestion to make the lease be very reasonable, the rental. One of the key things in that business is the acquisition of land in order to do it.
But
If they have to go out and buy it, it's a whole other big expense, and they don't have to this time.
If we did the work and we had some type of a guaranteed minimum from them that would cover the P&I, our exposure would be then minimal.
I still think you're not fully considering the burden upon the staff to be able to manage this, collect the money.
No, I'm saying that we would lease it out to somebody, but they
I'm
would
sorry.
take over the assets that we build
That you
and we
built.
own. They're just we're going to recover from them the principal and interest payment to at least keep our heads above the water, which means there's no subsidy.
I understand that.
line lead in, which we thought were the streetlights. It was a surprise to all of us, nobody knew.
An electrical line?
Yeah, well, the streetlight connection is connected through the meter because they gave it to us in bulk. That's what we initially thought it was. What we we found it was they an abandoned irrigation, where the old irrigation system, the sprinkler system, tying into that meter somehow ended up on the back of the meter for the lift station. Luckily, Bill caught this, because what would have happened was we gave the go-ahead to start working on the station. They would have came in and tore out the lift station, all the equipment inside, put it into bypass mode, and then taken the panel out, because we're taking that panel out and replacing it with a new panel, and we're moving it. And what would have happened was that we would have never gotten through permit had we not known that. We've already taken the first step, the point of no return. We're committed once that happens. Say the last time that happened was at Championship Greens lift station, and it was 4 weeks before we got it back online. It had to be on bypass, which you do not want to do if you can avoid it if all possible for that length of time. And there again, we have an electrician on staff now. He came out, boom, figured out what was going on, luckily. Because when you take the station offline, you do not want to be in a position where you want to get it in, get it fixed, get it back online as fast as you can.
So you're saying that the power for the pump station and the light electrical supply for Commerce or Commonwealth Drive? West Links is all on our nickel?
It's not, the way it was set up, they gave it to us in bulk, is the way it was explained to me. It was connected on the load side, but not on the discharge side. And we pay a bulk fee for it, whatever it is. It's not, but somehow it got hooked into our meter can.
Well, what I was trying to figure out is when that was a POA, a valid POA, those lights should have been on the POA.
They were turned over to us from FPL as a unit.
Yeah, but the POA went defunct, and in fact, that was one that we just recently got transferred over as a part of the road process from WCI. Yeah, but before that, this was sounds like done wrong before.
Yeah. Oh, what we had to actually dig it out, and we traced the conduit and it's to an abandoned meter for the old irrigation sprinkler system. That would have never gotten through permitting had we not known. That was ahead of time. And there again, with Nick today, we had to repair a 3-inch line. That's just in and out for us now. Something we can keep. We would normally contract that out to Main Street, where now we're just doing it ourselves. We have $300 repairs now, $30 repairs, maybe half an hour labor.
That's true.
Yeah, it slowly is coming together. And then I wanted to go on to the irrigation system. We have now got Daniels Preserve completely on a new schedule, and it's really starting to impact. You can really see it. That's a really big community, and it's really starting to impact our demands. We've spread it all out, and it's really starting to work. I've been going to all the smaller ones, Hammock Cove, Royal Greens, and Summer Winds. Their system is different than everybody else's, so they're going to be at variance. And then I have Prado set up for the 21st with Prado to go over Prado's schedule. And it looks like we're going to be able to shift them off. We're going to have to do a little adjustment with them because of the size, but that is moving along, and we're starting to see some pretty good results. With the SCADA system that we have now, we can just trace the pressures. We can see exactly what's going on throughout the system 24 hours a day. So that is it's all that irrigation system is really starting to come together on that side. Most of the bulk of what today was the AMI system and the final numbers. I'm going to give you these numbers. For the year, we had 1,326 MIUs that have had to be replaced. Last year, we had 539, so we've more than doubled. And I want to say the last 350 to 400 of those MIUs, Zenner has come down and replaced them. And they are sweeping through our system right now, trying to give us a straight answer as to what exactly is going on and what's causing all of this. They're going to be on the agenda for the first meeting of March. Rich Sanders, who's the president of Zenner, is going to come in and hopefully give us some explanation as to.
You said last year, 2018, we were a little over 500. And
2017, we were at 539 replaced MIUs, all warranty. This year, we did 1,326 under warranty.
Yeah, it's 2018, you're talking.
2018.
And
And how, have we had any issues of double replacements? Or we replaced one, and then, so once we have gone through and replaced, we haven't had any issues? And one more question. And according to installation, from time of install, because I would imagine it's been a staggered install, have we been able to assess if there's any commonalities in the time frame from install to defect break?
It's typically,
The 2015, I talked to Rich Sanders this morning, and it's the 2015 install. That seems to be where the issue is. It's all on this install one.
The original install.
The original install, that is what they're trying to figure out, is what, we've got theories. There again, it goes into this meter box issue where, I put it to Zenner yesterday. I gave them our designs for what we're planning on doing, and we're going to change out 50 boxes, and we've changed out, I believe, 10 now already.
With the
And
new,
It's your standard dual plastic meter box, and what we're doing is we're hooking it to the sides and under
right,
the
so
box.
the top, like,
So the top is, because that's, on our side of it, that's a huge issue. That is just huge. With that.
We know that at the same time we were doing ours, there were 2 or 3 others in this area. Have we contacted those people to verify whether or not they're experiencing the same issue? What I'm trying to do is to narrow it down from a materials issue to a construction issue.
The city of Punta Gorda is going right now, they're doing their installs right now.
No, I'm talking about people that were doing it. There were like 3 companies or 3 entities that did it in 2015 when we were doing ours. Same equipment and
I
everything.
haven't contacted them.
We need to check with them. I
See,
think
this
what
one-
I'd like to find out, is it a materials issue? Because if they're having the same problems, then it would range
Zenner says that
toward
this is the only
materials.
place this issue is happening, is it's just here.
But, if we can confirm that by checking, eliminate materials. Now we come back to it's a construction issue, we're in a different ballgame.
and I would say too, we need to look at solution paths. So one would be to continue to replace as failure occurs, or if you can determine with some reasonable percentage of confidence that it's the 2015 installs and it's isolated to, maybe it's, if it's installation defects in accompaniment with maybe manufacturer defaults or something like that, then we would maybe want to talk to Center about putting into place a total replacement plan and get ahead of these while they're breaking. So that there's kind of, and I don't know the solution, but I would imagine it's one of those 2. Either we continue to fix as they break, and I would imagine we'd still stay within warranty, or if those warranty dates start to come up, we would look for
We have a
extension.
straight
Remember, we
10-year
have that
warranty.
sliding-
10-year warranty, so we're
We have
fine.
that sliding scale.
And then we go
warranty,
10 years
remember?
sliding.
Yeah,
We got
sliding
20-year
scale.
total, 10-year complete,
Yeah.
and then at each
Well, the
year
rate we're
past
going,
that,
we're gonna
it's different.
replace,
Yeah.
we're gonna replace
Oh,
those.
in 5 years.
Yeah, so,
At
but,
this rate, yeah, we're gonna change the system out.
but I think we need to have that conversation with Zenner. Do we look to a continued replace strategy, or do we need to look at having more of have them come back and do a complete
Yeah, I'd like to know that information
reinstall?
before the March meeting, so as to quiz
He
Zenner on those
he
issues.
should, yeah, he should have, he said all of his, he's got everybody on his staff that can, working on this issue, as opposed to trying to figure out what exactly it is. He wants to come back with information to give to us as to why this is happening. But it's isolated to the 2015 install, is where all these MIUs are.
And is that tied to, when you said 2015 install, is that also tied to the
drop down the discharge, or they're coming online and they're not able to stop and it's rapidly discharging. And they're tying that to them sitting in the bottom of that box just discharging. So what my solution was it's simple, is just to remove them from that lid. That lid, when you lift it up and you put it back down, it just creates all kinds of issues, and we have 300 landscaping companies in here, and they'll go out there and open them up, throw them back down, and they don't even.
Flowway maintenance, and discuss getting a quote that we're working on from DBI to clean the flowway at Colonial and also on the west side of the interstate. We're gonna kind of use that as a kickoff and bring a couple more partners into the discussion about cost sharing that. Robertson facilitated to explain the regulatory framework and the responsibilities from there, much the same that we had the folks from the county come in and talk about littorals, is have her in Monterey.
Well, the DBI, I'm not confused about that, but the east side.
their responsibility. I mean, I think that's clear.
I think it would be very difficult for them to disagree with that they already admit to.
Right, and so the question is, will South Florida be willing to get involved and, or stand back and say, hey, we'd like you guys to try to work it out? I think South Florida would probably prefer that right now. My recent dealings with them, I know, we're reestablishing relationships with South Florida, as I understand it, which is always helpful, so Maybe they'd be willing to help nudge it along, but I don't think they're gonna come down and hammer to the top. Yeah. I mean, we had that email, I think it was black and white, that was wonderful, way back when they made it very clear, South Florida did, that's Colonial's responsibility, that flowway. And then the Platts and the Cape Botanical Lakes Master Association has part of the flowway on the south side dedicated to them for maintenance. So that's, I think, the third party, or Botanical Lakes.
And they don't even appear to have a drop of water coming into it.
That flowway, they have maintenance responsibility, it's, under the plat, so.
But we have the ball rolling. Also, we had the contract extension for Infomart. Tony's provided some comments. We're getting that back to them, and we'll be bringing that back next meeting or 1st of March for board consideration and approval. And there's a copy of that contract in the board packet if anyone would like to look at it in detail.
So Chris, I talked to Mike briefly before the meeting, to have him research and look into the Google platform. It's something that the company now is using, and with the Google platform, you have your Google Mail, but you also have Google Docs, which is like a drive. And the nice thing about it is you have documents stored in the Google platform, which you can access through any internet. So you don't need Outlook, Mail, whatever. Literally, you go to Google and log in, and everything is there. But what I'm thinking is, specifically to Infomart, is we put our meeting book together, and per our regulations, we have to send that out, X amount of time before our meeting. But we always have addendums and things that come up, supplementals, and a lot of times they're presented during the meeting. But if we put the shell up of the meeting book and use this centralized Google Doc, which is, when you open it, it's always the most current version. So we could add, if there's supplementals, you just, basically we have a meeting folder, and you add docs to it, or you're constantly updating the meeting book without having to re-email it out. So I think it would simplify not only the Infomart scope of work, but it would make our lives easier, because we wouldn't have to worry about version control. So not to get into the weeds here, but so I mentioned it to Mike, he's gonna look into it. It would be a complete change for us to go from Office 360 over to Google, but it's a much easier platform, and I don't know if you guys, do you use any Google platforms?
No, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yeah, it's a really nice system.
So, but we use both. I mean,
Yeah.
just very little on the Google side.
So I don't, if it looks like something that's viable that we could turn around within a short amount of time, the only reason I bring it up is it could potentially influence the scope of work. It could make that some of the process that Infomart is doing for us simpler, which might be a variation of the contract and the contract terms. So just throwing it out. I don't know if anything will happen in time for the contract renewal, but it's just some point of consideration.
We did get a permit modified and remove the fish barrier from our permanent owned area,
Nice.
so we won't have to reconstruct that.
Yeah.
It's a huge expense.
That was a nightmare last.
And we had discussion, a lot of emails flying around about the streetlights on Commerce Lakes that were being shut off for non-payment. And the Intelliflex condominium had been paying for it. At their meeting prior, they voted 75% to stop funding those lights, which it doesn't really bother them, because where the streetlights are really just on their parking parking field area. So, and all their people are gone at 5 o'clock. So they could care less, but they were trying to get the board to us take it over from a staff standpoint. I told them previously the board had denied doing that, and so I wasn't going to take it on at the staff level and approve or try to put those lights on one of our accounts at $500 a month.
Did we identify, are those lights owned by FPL or the POA?
I'm looking into that right
We need to
now.
look
Which
into
location?
that. Worthington. Commerce Lakes, right?
Yeah, Daniels
There's a
Preserve.
court, yeah, that little court, there's a little side street court there right off there. And the question is, they're on the plat for that development, there's a dedication to the CBD, of various easements, PUEs, and the roadway tract as a utility for streetlights, for water, sewer, et cetera. But the question is, who owns the streetlights? If it's an FPL ownership issue, it's one thing, if it's owned by the POA, that's another issue.
We'll get to the bottom of that. And also we have scheduled for the 14th board retreat from noon to 5 to last that long here in Russ Wire will be coming too to bring an update on the assessment methodology, and we'll follow that up with a discussion on implementing stormwater utilities and options there. And then Joe DeServo will be here and our staff talking about priorities and budgeting, staff functions, board member functions, and it'll be very much like one of our workshops. There's be no official action taken, no voting, just open discussion on a variety of topics. And we'll have a light lunch available, some sandwiches and a salad, so we'll get started kind of like a working lunch. And
Where are we
then-
meeting?
Right here.
Right here.
And I tried to move around the community a little bit, but Stony Brook was busy. Gateway Greens was busy. There were several locations I tried, but they were all booked up, and I certainly wasn't gonna try to displace the women's card group at Gateway Greens, because I'd pay for that for years to come. And that's all I have today. Just any questions?
Where are
Okay.
we?
Mr. Guy,
No, I was trying to tell the chairman that you needed to be ready.
Oh, thank you. You have there for February 14th, the pool is closing, but just not notices February 11th. Is it closing the 14th or the 11th?
It'll be probably the first part of next week, closer to the 11th.
Okay, and it's gonna take 10 weeks?
That's probably won't take 10 weeks, but it certainly could take 6 or 7. So I don't want to say 6 or 7 and have it run a week later.
Okay, on page 8 of our agenda. Okay. Is that a spelling error? W-I-T-N-E-S?
There's just a space in there.
That's what it's supposed to be. I'm just curious, that's all. This is stutter. You know,
Digital stuff.
just thought it is.
you had a question.
Yeah, Chris, where are we at on the, getting the bid out on the flowway?
I just provided you with some comments. We met with the engineer yesterday and revised some of the things to take out some of the tree line and I-75 culverts that had been inspected 3 years ago and didn't show a lot of debris in them. So I'll be giving Tony the ads and the documents to review tomorrow, and then we'll get it out to bid by the 21st of this month.
Did he give us a pre-bid cost estimate?
Yes, I can tell you right off the top of my head, but those numbers are in your folder. So plan on doing that, bringing it back to the board the 21st of next month with the notice to proceed, and that'll get the contractor 2 months still in the dry season or a little longer to get that work done. And I would say we're probably expecting it to be in that $125,000 range. That's all I have.
Anything else?
Some of the other stuff will come up in further.
Okay, that leaves us with district engineer. Engineers, plural.
You have engineers today. Good afternoon, Tyler Wainwright, Tetra Tech. I'm gonna do the first 3, and then Mr. Nelson's gonna do the last 2. So. Apologize, let me just flip to the page real quick. The first one there is just the status of the task authorizations. If you have any questions on those, be happy to answer any of them. As Chris said, we're working on the Lake Bank restoration right now, 92, they're underway with construction, and then the other 2 contractors will just issue their NTPs to start work, so we'll be looking to set up reconstruction meetings with those 2 soon. The CIP improvements, we just turned in the draft report to staff for that, so they can review that and give us any comments that they may have. Pelican striping, the striping's actually been complete, now we're just hanging on, waiting for the sign contractor to finish up his work. Storage facility, all the permits have been submitted, we're just waiting on review comments from the various agencies, county. Surface water modeling, there's a memo to discuss, so I won't talk too much about that one. And then the building site plan, we actually just had the surveyors out here this week to complete their field work, and then we'll be wrapping up a site plan for that, so.
What's our target completion for that.
For the building site plan?
Yeah, total, site, yeah, like turnkey.
This says, 5 April as the projected dates, so I'll stick with that, 5 April.
April.
And, where are we with the retro permitting for the phase 1 set of lakes?
I owe a scope and fee to Chris for that work,
Okay.
so that one's on.
What was that?
The retro permitting for the first set of lakes?
Development order for the
The-
first
Oh,
one,
oh, sorry.
littoral land.
Yeah. Just
Um,
wondered.
And just real quick, Chris, I know that you've been project planning a lot of this stuff out. With the office building site plan, do we have a project plan for that, or at least high-level deliverables on what needs to happen when, so we can kind of stay tight to that?
We have received a preliminary, a plan and
Yeah.
a product and a number.
Okay.
And there'd be very minimal site planning. We're looking at putting something right behind this building, the water and sewer's right there. So, and the building that they have, the quote to bring it in and set it up is about $117,000. And the prices on those modulars have gone up about 8 to 9% in the past year and a half.
And we have to, it comes completely unfurnished, right? So we have to,
You put it in, and they'll do that too. If you want to do a turnkey, they'll put in the modular desk furniture, and what we have is, and I can share that with you too. I have the schematic and the pricing. I was going to bring it to the board advance.
Okay.
But they'll set it all up, but it's 5 offices and a common area for a copier and that type of thing, and 2 bathrooms and handicap accessible.
okay.
If you don't mind, actually, could we, talk about that for just a second, the site plan? One of the things that we're doing on that is we're doing a site plan for the development order, and, parking is one of the main items. It may come to terms that we don't have to add parking, but we may want to. Do you know if that's something that staff or the board wanna consider, is adding extra parking? Yeah, it'd be out in the grassy area over there. Is that something that you guys do wanna consider as part of this, or do you want me to just leave that out of there? Any thoughts?
You know what staff is gonna require for parking.
And the parking back could probably be more people coming into the building. I mean, it's adequate for us back there and all our equipment, but you could certainly add more parking along the front of the fence, whether it was grass parking or.
You mean up front?
Yeah, you park in the grass, it looks horrible.
Yeah, we could put some curb stops up there.
I mean, if you are gonna go in and get a development order to do this, I mean, to add parking is a pretty simple item. I don't think we're going to end up having to, but you may want to because you know we're parking, so.
That makes sense.
And you think parking here, not so much on that side, or what were you thinking?
I was actually thinking over there where they're storing stuff now, but when we can look into on this side too,
We'll
if
have to
you prefer
move
that.
the storage from here.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I just,
But we can look into both sides, I mean, we can lay it out 2 ways and,
well,
you know.
the reason why I bring that up is putting parking there might make sense right now, but if we're looking at 3-5 years, is there additional consideration for those areas that, you know, because originally when you looked at the plan, there was a fueling station, there was a, like some type of storage area over there, that's why the concrete is laid out the way it is. So just before we pin down exactly where the additional parking would be, let's kind of think forward a little bit, what we may need with additional, vehicles.
Well, do we have a site plan that shows this?
That's
A laid
what-
out
that's what
site
we're-
plan that
that's
shows
what-
how this building's gonna sit relative to potential additional parking.
That's what we're laying out right now, basically. There's 2 spots where the new modular building can go, basically in that grass area right there in the middle of the roundabout, which it's pretty tight to put it back there, or back behind this building where the old original office building was, which is probably easier to do because it's right next to utility hookups. There's water and sewer service right there, so that's probably where it's gonna go. And then parking, you can basically choose if you want it over there in the grass or over there out front, so.
Do they have a requirement at the county that the number of seats that are out here adds to the parking spaces that we have to have available?
The parking calculations are based on square footage per building use type. So if you're office general admin or whatever it is, it's that number of square foot, and then it's either 250 spaces per, or sorry, 1 space per 250 square feet, 300 square feet, 350, so on, depending upon your use type. So I actually think you are good with the existing parking you have. You don't technically have to add, but, you know, for practicality purposes, we're parking on the grass right now, so if you wanna add parking, it's a good idea.
And I'll just add one quick thing, to that parking, there's what we consider public parking. And then we're adding vehicles left and right, you know, there's stuff in the bay, you know, we park the van and some other things. So even being able to have a designated area for all staff vehicles might be nice to, you know, to have something kind of laid out and organized. Just a thought.
Madam Chair, just one question possibly. Tyler, if we had the site plan and it shows parking, the board doesn't have to put that in. The board can decide at a later date to not construct the parking. The actual
Yeah, you can
parking.
take it out. I mean, that's what they
The key
did
is
with
that
this.
Since you're in the loop now, that's what I'm thinking, if you're in the loop now, it's kind of like that 1,500 square foot storage building we never built.
Yeah.
At least get the approval and make a decision later
And
on.
it's good for 5 years.
How many years is it? Tyler?
It's essentially good for perpetuity as long as you show that you've tried to put it in good faith. 5 years, yeah.
Consideration of additional parking sounds like a good idea. So you're gonna show two site plans, one with the building out here and one with the building in the back? Is that what you were planning on doing, or?
We'll probably just show the one, unless
Okay.
you want it over there, we can show you what that might look like, but that's the better option, I think, so.
Well, that makes sense.
Do we have some type of an agreement with Lee County? Because that fence and that whole east side of the building isn't our property. Is there an issue or let's go backwards. Do we have an agreement with Lee County that stipulates that we can use this gate and this fence and we can lock it in and all that good stuff?
It's a good question. To be real honest with you, I don't have a clue.
I
don't
believe
know.
there's an easement, ingress egress easement from way back when, but I don't know if we get some nitty gritty about locking up. That's why they believe they have their separate gates.
Because this would sure be real nice to be able to come in here off of the Griffin, and once we get past that little curve, turn right into this building immediately and terminate that right out there.
I mean, anything is
But the only
doable.
trouble is that berm, tree removal adds cost to it. That's the downside.
But I'm sure they would want to maintain their access on that same route.
They don't use it.
You know?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they want to leave that gate or, I don't know. I mean, if that's something that you do want to do, we can certainly look into, you know, access alignments and things like that, but.
I think if you're considering the site out here for the building, then adding the parking, additional parking out here seems to make sense to me. That just common
That
sense
sure is a
would
phase
say.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll start with that. We'll give a site plan to you guys, you can take a look at it, critique it, and we'll move on from there.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
You still- I know, you've done it, or you still going on?
I'm good on, task authorizations. I'm gonna go to, Lake 92 stuff next unless you have questions.
Oh, wait.
So the next item we have on there is a memorandum about Lake 92. This is the lake that's under construction right now. Metro Equipment Services is the contractor. So for reference, this lake is right about a mile. I think it's 5210 feet or something like that. Most all of it is your regular typical lake bank. There's a section of about 900 feet that is existing big boulder riprap along the lake bank. There's a reason to why that is riprap instead of the regular typical lake bank. When that development was constructed, there was a modification by the developer several years after the original DO to go back and reconfigure the lake to try to squeeze more lots into there. And when they did that, they decreased the width, of the lake, so they had to go to a steeper slope. And when they did that, they had to provide riprap instead of the regular because it was a 3-to-1 instead of a 4 or 6-to-1. So anyway, it's riprap. When we originally did the design, we did not include improvements in that area because really, quite honestly, 3-4 years ago, it wasn't that bad. You know, 2 hurricanes later and 4 years later, it's gotten worse and there's some areas that probably really should be fixed. So we asked the contractor to give us a price to go ahead and make those repairs, and he did. So in this memo, there are 2 options. Option 1 is to basically make the area look like the rest of the lake. It's not going to look exactly like the lake because of the geometry of how it is. It's going to be a little bit steeper. Basically what they would do is drag that big riprap down to the toe to try to give it a base, and then pretty much do the same thing they're doing from that point up to the top of the slope. Except for it'll be steeper than the rest of the lake because there's just not room to expand it any further. That's option one. Option two is we still drag that big riprap down to the toe, but that instead of doing the TRN matting, we would just fill in the gaps with 4 to 8 inch smaller stone and take that up to the top. So it'd still be a riprap look, but would be a little more consistent with the rest of the stuff that's going on there. It wouldn't be the big boulder, it'd be the smaller stone that's more interlocking and I think looks and lasts better. That option is definitely cheaper. That one works out to approximately 162 a foot versus 253 for the other one. The other thing I will mention about that is when we asked the contractor for that price, he gave us a price per ton on riprap, and that was basically his estimate per ton, and then he added some fluff factor to it. So while I don't expect it would go over that, I do think there's a fair chance that it would run under that based on just how much riprap they end up putting down. So those are the two options. The recommended option from us is option 2, which is basically just to go with the 4 to 8 inch stone. If you have any other questions, I can definitely answer them. The third option is you just don't do anything with it right now and you just continue with the lake banks as you are today.
I'd make the motion to proceed with option 2. I agree, it's dangerous out there as it is right now. You can go out there on that bank and make one slip and your foot will be down there and that rock is just like it's got barnacles on it. It'll just cut you to ribbons. So I think it's dangerous. Probably should have done it in the first place, but we're trying to save money. So I'd make the recommendation that we issue a change order for proposed option 2.
I'll second that motion for the same reason I've seen it too.
Yeah, I went out, Chris showed that to me, and it's, we really can't leave it the way it is, so I'm in agreement with that. So, any other questions for Chris on that? Or, I mean, excuse me, for Tyler on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Option 2.
All right. Last item for me is another memorandum. This is for the surface water hydraulic modeling. So there is a whole lot of technical gobbledygook in here that I'd be happy to explain if you'd like me to, but basically here's where we're at. We have developed a model. We have taken all of the various data that we have, which is a collection of the old Morris Riley reports, record drawings from the development, field inspections that we've made, LiDAR data from the county. LiDAR is elevation data from satellite. A whole lot of different data points, and we then put it into this model. We've ran this model, and we've come out with the first couple of runs from it. Some cases, it's pretty accurate to what's out there. Some places, it's pretty far off, so that's to be expected. Now you go through and calibrate it. So now we go through and we take those level monitors that Gateway's installed, we take the historical data from those, and then we calibrate the model specifically in different points where it's off. And then we go to try to figure out why. You know, okay, maybe the record drawing said it was a 48-inch pipe, and in real life it's a 24. Okay, well that makes a big difference. So that's the next step, is to go and do those sort of things and make those different model runs and model adjustments. And then at that point, once we get it fairly tight, then we would produce a summary report and present it to you all.
Go ahead.
Tom, my intent on all of this from the beginning of getting this model was, I got spooked a couple of years ago with the rains that we've had. I'm hoping that when you're done, the model will show for our 7, 8 control structures, primary control structures, when all ponds are, and I'll be satisfied at control elevation, not 6 inches above control, but I'll take control. When we add in this new area, and we take the results of the impacts of a 25-year storm and the impacts of a 100-year storm, where's the water?
Are you talking about the new from Timber Creek?
Yes. And we know everything. Everything that's in this model. When Gateway was designed, they talked about the water management plan, 5,433 acres. I am positive that it's way more than that that's coming into Gateway. The design of Gateway has changed. Everything has changed. It's not like it was then. What I want to see is that if we get a 25-year storm, with the control structures we have and the water level at control, what's gonna happen here? Right now, we were looking at 300, 320 CFS was the allowable under the 37 CFS per square mile. I believe we got a lot more than that, closer to 400, maybe even 420 CFS. What happens at Weir 5? What happens at Weir 4? What happens at 3 that wasn't even built right? What happens at 2 and what happens at 1? For all practical purposes, once it gets past the interstate and or it gets past tree line, really don't care.
Yeah.
That's Colonial's problem. In fact, the more we can get over there, the better I feel. But we gotta be able to get it down there. What happens in a 25-year storm with our weirs? Do some of these weirs need to be widened, for example? Do some of them need to be lowered to offer us opportunity to where we don't have the flooding like we've had in Pelican Preserve? Went out there last week and looking at that again. That's a mess. That's just an accident looking for a place to happen. We're sitting here right now in February where we normally have the water down 2 feet and you can see dirt as far out in the lake as you can. We're 3 inches above control. If we get a gully washer right now, we got problems, big time problems, adding to the fact that we have storm sewers that are clogged all over. I want to see what the impact is so that we know just to what the extent that we need to go back and ask for a reanalysis of the structures themselves, maybe even a replacement of the structures. Will that show that